So after we've installed PyMongo into our operating system, that is the Python driver for Mongo, we still have to actually install Mongo itself. To do that, we would go to the Mongo website, download the software, and install it for our operating system. So I've already done this for my Mac. But what we have to do now is actually start the database. So we need to activate the server, which will serve as a way in which our database connects to. We can make this a remote database, but in this case, I'll make it a local database. To do that, you simply type this command called mongod. Mongod is the command that allows Mongo to begin, or the Mongo database to begin. I'm pointing to a path that I want the database to reside, so I've created this folder called MongoDB. So the DB path option that you see there is pointing to that path. So hopefully it will now begin once I launched it. So you can see Mongo is beginning, so you see a bunch of sort of information, and it says in the end waiting for it to connect to the port. So that basically means it's now ready. So now I can go back to my Python code and begin to see how Mongo will work. Now we're going to leave that alone for a little bit and look at some of the code that we've created. So if we go back to the class Mongo that we talked about earlier, you see a number of inputs. These are inputs that we're going to actually add to the database. So there's a list called author, there's a list called text, there's author 2, text 2, images 2. So, and within that we also have something called get database. This is a method called get database, and basically what you're seeing is it's referring to a local client. So to create a local client, we do the Mongo client command. That's a command within Mongo that we've now imported in the library of Mongo. So you can see, for instance, here we're getting the Mongo client from the PyMongo library. So now we're actually referencing the PyMongo driver, and we're creating the Mongo client. It's a local host. That is, we're not going to get a remote host, but something from our computer. It's referencing the specific port that accesses it. So 27017 is the sort of default one. And then we're going to get that client. So the DB is going to be the main database that we'll get. So once we have that database, we're going to then not only get the database, so DB, so we return the database, we will then get what are called collections. So collections are basically sort of specific data within different kinds of sub-databases. They're kind of ways to basically have data broken into different kinds of categories. So posts, texts are some of the categories we have here. So get the posts collection, as you can see in this command. And so for that, we basically loop in this case, what we're going to do is create a loop from 0 to 4, and we're going to add data into this collection. Okay, so we're going to add an image, and you're going to see there's a read image command that's in this, and you can see down, I think it's here, yeah, down here you can see the read image method. So that's something you could take a look at. That's basically just using standard Python ways of reading an image, which we've gone through before. So we're going to get that binary data. And just like we did with the SQLite or SQLite, we have to add the binary data into our database. Now, Mongo, of course, is a NoSQL database, so it will reference the actual sort of binary as well as textual data differently, and we'll see that in a moment. We're going to get some authors, so this is the lists of authors that you see up top. So we're going to get this information. And so we're going to get the text as well, and the text is over here. So what we're doing is just getting all this information, including imagery and text data, and we're going to create an input for that. So you see what we're creating here in the posts, or post. This is basically nothing more than a kind of referencing system for our information, a kind of dictionary, essentially, in Python lingo that will reference our data. So in a dictionary, we often have the keyword and the actual value. So author is the keyword, text is a keyword, tags is a keyword, date is a keyword, and image is a keyword. And we can add all these values. So we can add the binary data, we can add the text data and author data that we got from these lists that contain that information. So all that is different sets of information, and we simply insert this data in using the Mongo command, insert one. So now we can get the post. So posts, excuse me. So post, recall, is a collection, so a kind of sub-database in Mongo. Then we can insert the data using things like the insert one command. You can go look at the Mongo driver, which I have listed in this week's tutorial. You can look at the sort of examples of commands, or the actual sort of handbook that they have there, which lists all the commands for Mongo driver or PyMongo, as well as the Mongo database. We'll take a look in a moment what the data looks like in the actual database. But this is how you basically insert a command. So you could insert it this way. We're going to return the insert ID just to know what the insert ID is. So then we can simply look at that if we wanted to in the debugger, for instance, or we could return it even so we have a specific reference to the insert or inserted data. So this insert one command simply inserts one data input at a time. The data input consists of this dictionary called posts. Okay, and in Mongo 2, we're going to see another method which again gets the database and gets the collection, this time text, or texts is the actual collection we're going to get. And what we're going to do a little bit different this time is that we're going to ensure a kind of indexing for this input. That is, we want it to be ascending, a kind of alphabetical ascending order, so in alphabetical order. We want that data to be unique, so we don't want to sort of override that data or overwrite that data multiple times. And so that's sort of inputs you can add. And so this is kind of information you can give Mongo to tell it how you want to insert or set up your data. So it's unique and alphabetical in this case. And then we go ahead and get the author and text data once again, and just like before, we create a dictionary that references our information, and then we insert it once again and get the insert ID. So that's basically how we add data to Mongo. So let's go back to the create DB module to see what we do. So what we do is get Mongo. That is, we return an instance of Mongo itself from run Mongo. So, and then we create that class Mongo essentially, and then we run the methods Mongo run, Mongo 2. So we're going to do that right now. So if I right click and press run as, we should then get the Python run. So it runs. Nothing really happens. It's basically just inserted the data. But now we're going to go ahead and see what that data actually looks